February 2011, Saturday. Titheshcha Shriyamapnoti Varadayushyavarthanam Nakshatradharate Papam Yogat Roga Nivaranam Karanat Karya Siddhishcha Panchanga Phalamuttamam. Sarvesham Shubhamastu.
Suprabhatam, Suswagatam. Four main streams of yoga. Either we can work with the intellect, or with the emotions, or with our emotions, or convert every action into a yoga. Jnana Yoga, Raj Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga. All four paths ultimately lead to the same goal. That's what is called as moksha. Moksha means freedom. Freedom from what? Freedom from all miseries. Freedom from all diseases. Freedom from all bondages. Freedom from our life itself. That's called moksha. Ultimate freedom. A state of absolute bliss, absolute power, and total knowledge, and eternal bliss. That's what moksha is. Four paths of yoga have been identified. Jnana Yoga is the path of intellect, Bhakti Yoga is the path of emotions, Raj Yoga is the path of willpower, Karma Yoga is the path of action. You can choose any one of them, or two of them, or all of them. What is the goal? Freedom. Absolute freedom. Freedom from all miseries, freedom from all bondages. That is what four streams offer us. There is a unity in diversity of all the four paths. What is that unity which binds us all into a grand single culture? Jnana Yoga, Raj Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, and all aspects of life have a basic unity. And here we call it as God. If we don't like the word God, then use scientific terms like reality, consciousness. It could be called as moksha. It will be called as ultimate reality. What is it? It is to see gold in all ornaments. It is like seeing water in all waves in a ocean. It is seeing clay in all variety of parts. That's what we call the reality. And Jnana Yoga is the path of intellect, analysis, to bring forth these things. So, this story gives us the whole essence of Jnana Yoga. How many of you have heard this story? All of you should tell me what special thing I will tell today in this story. There was a rich merchant who had 4 wives. And the 4th wife is the one whom he loved the most. He took great care of her, spent all his energy and time, adorned her with all rich robes, and she gave her nothing but the best. She also loved him very much. 3rd wife, she was the most beautiful among all the 4 wives. And she was enchanting. So he was very proud of her. Whoever comes, he'll be very happy to introduce her. The person will be fascinated. But in the heart of hearts, this merchant was in great fear, because this lady may choose to run away to another richer merchant than himself. That was the fear he had. What about second wife? She is a very considerate person, very practical, very pragmatic. She is merchant's confident. Any problem merchant faced, he will look to her. And there she goes with a solution. And therefore he loved her very much. She also loved him very much. What about the first wife? She is a very loyal partner to the king, to the merchant. She made great contributions in maintaining his wealth, health, business, everything. She kept the house immaculately clean, aesthetic, beautiful. Everything from behind. She never came forward. Nobody knew who is behind the scene, making the whole house, a palatial house, look so grand and wonderful. But the unfortunate thing was, the merchant did not like her, did not love her, and never even cared for her. Never asked, hey, are you taking food? Even that he didn't. A day comes, as it comes to all of us, that the merchant fell very seriously ill. He was on his deathbed. He knew in few more hours he is going to die. Then he remembered all his luxurious life, 4 wives taking care of him. Then he thought, what is going to happen to me when I die? When I go to a new place, there will be nobody to take care of me. So what to do? Then he thought of a brilliant idea. Let me see whether any of my wives can come with me. So naturally he got his most beloved one, the 4th wife. Oh dear, I loved you the most, did everything for you, and nothing but the best I gave. Now I am going there, you should keep me company. What she will say? You fellow, you are dying, you want me to die, get lost. No, she walked away. So the merchant felt so bad, as if a sharp knife has been driven into him. The person whom I loved most, she betrayed me so badly. Then he turned to his 3rd wife with a little suspicion in the heart. Now he has played some better trick, to attract her to come there. So he said, you see, I can introduce you to all VVIPs here, but I am going to a super space, and there will be VVIPs. What have to come? I will introduce all these people to you. But she says, I am not a fool. A bird in hand, a bird too in the bush. I am only waiting for the moment for you to die. As soon as you die, I have already fixed up my next partner. So all his suspicion came true. And he turned cold. Then the only hope, second wife, oh dear, look at this 4th and 3rd wife whom I love so much, they have betrayed me badly. So you are the only hope. You have solved all my problems in my whole life. Now I want you the most. No? Will you please come and keep me company? Otherwise life will be so boring. Nobody will take care of me. No? But she responds, oh dear, how I wish I could do that. So sorry, my dear, I can't help you this time. The only thing I can do is I can carry your dead body to the grave at the crematorium. That's it. All his hope collapsed. Then he hears a sweet voice. Oh my dear, don't worry. I am going to go with you. Wherever you go, I will go. And I will continue to serve you as I have been doing. Then he looks up. Who is that? His first wife. How is she? Very thin, emaciated, as if she is suffering from malnutrition. The merchants felt so bad. See, when I could have done everything for her, I never cared for her, never looked at her, and never asked whether you are taking food. But among all the 4 wives, 3 of them have totally betrayed me, and she is the only one who is now ready to come with me. And he was feeling so bad inside. He was cut up inside. He thought, I could have done everything, but I never did anything for her. That is the story of 4 wives. Now, who are these 4 wives? Who is that merchant? Each one of us represents that merchant. We all have 4 wives. Who are the 4 wives? The 4th wife is our fond body we love the most. We spend all our energy, time and money, everything to take care of this body. But no matter how much of time and energy and effort you take in making it look good, what is going to happen? This 4th wife is going to say goodbye as soon as we die. Who is the 3rd wife? The most attractive, most beautiful of all. It's our possessions, status, wealth. Look at my beautiful palatial house. So wonderful, so great. Everybody is attracted. What is going to happen? As soon as we die, this lady is going to marry a different person. Right? All your property and wealth is going to go to a person whom you will. Maybe your wife, maybe your children, maybe your friend, maybe your close relative. She is going to marry him. Who is that 2nd wife? Our family and friends. They always come to our help. Any problem we have, we can rely on them. They will come and help us. But no matter how close they have been for us when we are alive, what can they do for us when we die? At best they can carry our dead body to the grave or the crematorium. Can they come with us? Then who is that 1st wife? Who is prepared to go and come with us even when we die? That's what we call as our Jivatma, individual soul. Unseen, something you don't see. Always behind the sea. But just like that merchant, we are all too much engrossed in our work, in our day-to-day activities, in the pursuit of material wealth and sensual pleasure. We have no time to look inside. But the only thing that can come with us is that 1st wife. So instead of regretting like that merchant, the Upanishads tell us, the Gnana Yoga tells us, now please give some time to look inwards. Start loving that 1st wife. And it's a good idea to cultivate and strengthen it now, rather than to wait until we are on our deathbed to lament like that merchant. So that is our Jivatma. The Upanishads tell us there are 5 layers to this Jivatma. The second one is the physical body, called as the Annamaya Kosha. Immediately next to that is the Pranamaya Kosha, then Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, Anandamaya Kosha. All these 5 are layers, you can call as fields or layers. The grossest layer is the physical body. We think that this is all. But there is something bigger than that, subtle. Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnana are called these subtle bodies, Sukshma Sharira. This is the physical body called the Sthula Sharira. Then the 5th one is the Anandamaya Kosha. That's called the Karana Sharira. So we have essentially 3 bodies. The gross body called the Sthula Sharira, we have the subtle body called the Sukshma Sharira, and the causal body called the Karana Sharira. But we can see only this physical body. This is stula. This is grosses made out of matter. Therefore we think that is a sword, because this is what we see. The other things you don't see. The Upanishads claim, the Jnana Yoga tells us that these are the unseen layers. What is it? Sukshma Sharira and Karna Sharira. Anandamaya Kosha is the Ananda, the state of bliss. In Anandamaya Kosha we are all in that wonderful state of bliss. When you come down, the activities start, thinking starts, analysis starts in the Vijnanamaya Kosha. There the knowledge is total. All knowledge is structured in consciousness. It is said. Vijnanamaya Brahma. There is no knowledge that is unavailable in the Vijnanamaya Kosha. We can call it an infinite web. You click our web and go to the Google search and you can get information whatever you want. Similarly, here is an infinite web. That's our Vijnanamaya Kosha. In this Vijnanamaya Kosha, we have complete knowledge. Knowledge of past, present and future. Then when you constrict further, you come to the Manomaya Kosha. In the Manomaya Kosha, our likes and dislikes start coming up. I want this, I don't like this. I want this, therefore I want it. I want to catch it. I don't like this, therefore I hate it. Then slowly the emotions start coming up. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, anger, greed, jealousy, hatred, infatuation. And slowly these emotions will power themselves up more and more. And they will start enslaving us. We know what is right, but we don't know right things. We know what is wrong, we are invariably drawn to do wrong things. This is called the personality of Duryodhana within us. Duryodhana is not just an epic character, but it is a personality trait within us. What is his speciality? What is his key essence? Janami dharmam, nacha me pravrutti, janami adharmam, nacha me nivrutti. I know what is right, but I don't do right things. I know what is wrong. I am drawn to do wrong things. I know it is the most atrocious sin to order Dushasana to go and pull Draupadi and make her naked in such an august audience. But what to do? When I think of her, my blood boils with greed and jealousy and hatred. Can she utter the word? Andhasya putraha andaha. Can she say this? I am going to take revenge on her. I know it is atrocious sin. Janami adharmam, nachame nivrutti. I know escape from that. Yes. Similarly, I know what is right. Krishna has come. Half the kingdom has to be given. Agnatavata also has preached successfully by Pandavas. But I say, no, nothing doing. Come on, let's go for the war. Let the war decide. Krishna says, please, for heaven's sake, let's not do that. Because this war is a treacherous war in which millions of innocent people will be killed. There will be massacre and rivers of blood will flow. Come on, let us stop this. Give only 5 villages. I will convince the Pandavas. Duryodhana thinks, what a magnanimous offer. Can there be a better offer than this? But then his ego comes in the picture. No, no Krishna, not 5 villages, not even 5 inches I am going to do. Come on, let's go for the war. Let the war decide. This is the Duryodhana within us. We know what is right. We don't do right things. We know what is wrong. We are drawn to wrong things. Doctors have told, you see, you are suffering from diabetes. Your sugar levels has started going high. 400. So immediately stop all sugar. With a reluctant mind you ask, doctor, can I take sugar in my tea and coffee? No, you can't take that also. Even coffee, tea also sugar I cannot take. What is it? What is the life path? You're almost crying. Your great friend, his daughter's married, and you have to go there. And when you go there, what do you see? All your pond sweets lined up there. Gulab Jamun, Rasgulla, Palpaisam, and Shikand, and whatnot, all types of sweet. And what happens? You start looking at them. What happens? Kurukshetra war. Right? Tongue is demanding. Come on, go and eat, go and eat, go and eat. Buddhi is telling, doctor's advice, don't eat, don't eat, don't eat. There's a big war that is going on. This is the Kurukshetra Sangrama. Now what wins makes all the difference. Then Buddhi also comes with support. Come on, what is going to happen? Eat. Nice, life is for enjoyment. If you eat, what is going to happen? Sugar will increase. Take one more diabetes. Or maybe have one more insulin prick. That's all. No? Enjoy. And still shorter. Still eating. See, if you don't eat, how can the doctor survive? If you don't take insulin, if you don't take tablets, your pharmacist also will be in great trouble. So you are serving the doctor and the pharmacist. Come on, what's a service to them? Come on, go and eat. See how intelligence will come into the picture. So I go there, I eat only a little bit of laddu. Let me see, that's my pond. It's so nice, so attractive, little more, little more. The whole food is only sweet, sweet, sweet. That means you have gone against what is right. This is where the problem starts. It's called Adi. You have gone against the cosmic law. An imbalance is set because you have gone against cosmic law. This is called Adi. That is the origin of all diseases. In the Manomaya Kosha. Then it percolates down into the Pranamaya Kosha. In Pranamaya Kosha, everything is at balance like a clear lake. And this Adi is something like putting a big stone in the lake gets disturbed. And the breathing becomes haphazard. Who cares if the breath is fast? Who cares if the breath flows only through the right nostril or left nostril? Who cares if the breath is jerky, haphazard? We continue on and on. Then it starts coming down in balance, start hitting the higher centers of the brain, creates what is called the stress reaction. And that stress reaction starts causing what is called as a sympathetic overtone, sympathetic parasympathetic imbalance, and an endocrine imbalance. And these imbalances will produce a lot of changes in the body. And when you continue doing this, then it will stabilize us. Depending on the weakest part in the organ, it settles down. If you have lungs, hereditary, your father or mother, somebody having asthma, you end up with asthma. Father or mother, somebody has got hypertension, you end up with hypertension. Somebody has diabetes in your family, you end up with diabetes. Then it becomes a vyadhi. Adi becomes a vyadhi. It's called Adhija Vyadhi. All these modern ailments belong to this category. All psychosomatic ailments, psychiatric problems, anxiety, neurosis, psychosis, everything belongs to this category. Adhija Vyadhi. So what solution we do? We go to the doctor, see I'm suffering. Doctor say, okay, start taking medicine. The best of the medicine that we take only deals with the physical body. And if no tablets work, then our friends are there, surgeons, come on, I'll cut open that and put a new machine there. Today you can replace almost every part of the body. There are 5,000 types of surgeries available. Now we are going even to replace the gene, called the gene therapy. You can completely replace the whole body itself. But where is the root cause? Here, in the Manomaya Kosha, Adi. What you are dealing only with the symptom. How can the Adi be removed by the Vyadhi? If you deal with the symptoms, can you solve the problem? You got malarial fever or typhoid. Your temperature is becoming very high, 100 to 103. What you do? You go on, put a cold pack, ice pack, then try to reduce the temperature. Will it solve the problem? Unless you kill those malaria germs and typhoid germs with an antibiotic, you cannot solve the problem. Similarly, what all you do is at the body level. The best of the pharmacological intervention that we have, the best of the surgeries that we have today, everything dealing only with the vyadi and the symptoms. Never the cause here. The cause is here, the adi, manomaya kosha, and the pranamaya kosha. Unless you solve the adi, you have no solution. Therefore, what has come to pass today in the modern medical world, once a diabetic, ever diabetic. Once you get asthma, it is for your life. Once you get hypertension, you can never think of a cure. The term cure has to be removed from the dictionary. It has come to pass today. Therefore, there is no solution to the problem. Why? Because our knowledge base is limited only to the physical world. In modern science, we have understood only the physical world. In such immaculate grandeur and depth, we have understood. You know what is happening in the brain, you can measure. But beyond that, we have no. So therefore, the Jnana Yoga does start going to the root cause of all the diseases. What is the root cause? Your Adhi. What is the root cause for the Adhi? You have gone against the cosmic order. In Ayurveda is called Prajna Paradha. You have gone against what is right. Therefore, the problems start coming down. What is the wrong you did? Knowing fully well that your gulab jamun is going to increase your sugar level, you ate gulab jamun and rasgulla and laddu and what not. One after that, other. That's the problem. So that is prajna aparadha you have. You have done a big mistake at the level of prajna. Unless you remedy that, you will have no solution. This is what yoga gives. The Jnana Yoga gives that power. Jnana Yoga is that knowledge base by which you will be able to completely eradicate. It brings about a total transformation in your knowledge base at the Vijnanamaya Kosha, strengthens the Vijnanamaya Kosha, and when there is a problem, then you will tell that Buddhi, Vijnana, is going to dominate, not your tongue. When there is a conflict between your Buddhi, telling the doctor's advice, don't eat, and here the tongue is demanding, come on, don't eat. There's a conflict. And which is the one which wins? Jnana Yoga strengthens this, and then this wins. I say, no, I don't want, I am fine. You go there and eat a lot of salads, you eat a lot of simple rasam and low calorie food, and you're very happy. Soon you will find you will become normal. How did that happen? Only by the higher perception. Following the Vijnanamaya Kosha, not succumbing to the emotions. That's what we have. That is what yoga offers. Let's contemplate on these thoughts. Sit straight. Closing your eyes. Relax all parts of the body. Beautiful smile on the face. Then look at the mind and the emotions. Are we succumbing to the emotions? When there is a conflict. The desires you can observe inside are forcing us to do a thing. But your buddhi is trying to take you in the right direction. There's a big war that is going on inside. And the Kurukshetra Sangrama. Your buddhi is trying to lift you up. Say that don't succumb. Doctor's advice, please be free. Don't eat sweet. But the tongue is demanding, come on, eat. Life is for enjoyment. What is the use of living? without enjoyment. Even the doctors have to survive. Come on, eat, go. Tongue is pulling you down. Buddhi is uplifting you. Vijnanamaya kosha. Can we strengthen our Vijnanamaya kosha and very politely say goodbye to our Manomaya kosha, to our tongue, and allow the buddhi to dominate. Then the diseases will vanish. Right buddhi, Vijnanamaya kosha. It's called Vijnana. Using the Jnana, it becomes Jnana Yoga. Jnanamaya kosha leads us to Anandamaya kosha, brings Ananda, brings health, happiness, bliss, silence, peace, harmony. Let us invite them to spread the fragrance